non-existent. There's definitely a huge reduction in passenger flights. We are seeing a slight uptick in cargo flights, obviously. And I would encourage all of you to encourage your residents, go to the flight tracker that's online. If anybody is questioning it, we've actually gotten some complaints in the last couple of weeks of, oh, the planes are just, you know, flying over all day long. And it's like, wow, okay, we're at, you know, greatly reduced numbers, and yet we're still getting noise complaints. And so it's nice to see that some things never change. However, please go ahead and use WebTrack to see what air traffic patterns we've been. You know, we've had some spring winds, and so we had some daytime traffic on the 422s, so that's noteworthy. They are also utilizing the airfield in a little different way, you know, with some of the runways closed. So I just wanted everybody to know, yes, there are still planes here, although in different quantities. So just encourage your residents to use the tools that we have available for them. So with that, let me hand it over to Ryan so he can give more on the quantitative side. Ryan.
Thanks, Aaron. And I think we're going to do a bit of a summary of this as well at the next tech committee meeting in May, just kind of summarizing how the COVID-19 situation has impacted O'Hare operations. But we are seeing a real significant impact. We've had almost 800 cancellations of arrivals and departures daily. We're seeing 1,100 fewer arrivals and departures scheduled among the carriers overall, which is looking at a 74% decrease in operations as compared to a typical schedule that we saw pre-COVID. So significant impacts to operations. 74% is quite a bit, and that's really a result of the response to significant decrease in passenger demand. Obviously, nobody's flying anywhere right now, and so we can at the next tech committee meeting take a look at how that evolved over the last several months. And where we are today as far as operations at O'Hare.
Evan, does that sound okay for us to add that as a topic for the next tech committee?
I find it fascinating. I would love to talk about it.
You're welcome, sir.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the decreased frequency makes the planes that do go over more noticeable versus increased frequency. It becomes more like white noise. So that's kind of interesting occurrence.
Yeah, that is a good point. And we've also been seeing, because of the massive decrease, air traffic is utilizing the airspace a little bit differently than we normally would see when we have a lot of traffic. Because we have less traffic, they're able to bring in aircraft a little bit sooner than they would maybe have arrivals go all the way out over the lake and then turn back in. They're kind of cutting in a little bit sooner on arrivals because there is plenty of space to do so. So we have seen some minor changes in the airspace over the Chicagoland area because there's a lot less traffic, and air traffic has a little more flexible to direct flights a little bit differently than they have in the past.
I have a quick question. What's the smart money think about projecting the future? What does that look like? I mean, is the airline industry seeing a V-shaped recovery in these numbers, or is this going to be a prolonged issue?
This is going to be a prolonged issue.
Yeah, and I would say it's too soon to tell. I think all of us are trying to get our arms around, you know, what demand will be there even this summer, let alone in a year from now. I think a lot of people will be studying that closely, Evan, because it's really noteworthy, not just from an operations standpoint, but how will operations affect financing, right? Revenues versus what expenses do we do or proceed with versus where do we have some austerity measures, for lack of a better term. We will be studying it quite a bit over the next few months. I heard a news story that like the United Airlines flight attendants are, apparently they made some appeal to the government that says you need to shut down all non-essential air traffic unless you give everybody masks. And so that was a bit of a surprising comment from a certain portion of the aviation workforce. So it remains to be seen how aircraft operations and flight in general are affected as states begin to, and how quickly demand will be recovered.
So then I think the logical follow-up question, Aaron, I don't know if you have any insight on this. O'Hare was committed to a $8+ billion renovation. If you're looking at falling revenues, do any of the rehab of O'Hare, does that come into question?
Yeah, it's too soon to tell. I think what we are reviewing is which projects, you know, like, so we have a good amount of bond funding already in place, and we're certainly doing an enormous work of planning and design. So we're still, Governor Pritzker has said that not only airport operations, but construction in general is essential. And so a lot of the projects that were planned for this year are already underway or in mobilization phase. I think the question is, which projects would we consider for 2021 and subsequent, which are ready to go versus which are important but not critical. So yes, the kind of question you're asking is what we, the CDA, are going to be deliberating internally and with the airlines, not just for, I would say this year's pretty solid. I think we need to look at future years and just, as we wrap up the ONP and shift gears over to TAP. But a lot of TAP planning and design is already underway.
Yeah, there was an interesting feature I caught on the news this morning. I believe it was an American flight. They had video from inside the cabin, no social distancing, all the seats were filled, not everyone was wearing masks. And that just hit me totally the wrong way. To the extent there are fewer flights, but they're still packing them full, I think they're going to have to spread them out and put more flights into operation just for the health of the passengers. And I would imagine that that video is going to spark some pushback on the airlines to fly less than full.
Yeah, it'll be curious whether the federal government recommends any something on aircraft, or if the airline industry, volunteers, to either put masks on the crew or masks on the passengers, or a combination of both.
Yeah, Aaron, your audio went bad. I think we all heard that, but you just must have switched what microphone you're using.
Sorry about that. Is that better?
It's all right. Okay, is there anything else on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one more topic. It's my understanding that the North and South Towers were closed for a period of probably about 2 weeks, in that they were not needed. All of the traffic could be operated from the main tower. And so the FAA, in reviewing what happened at Midway, which was Midway air traffic controllers contracted the coronavirus, and they had some tricky things to reschedule, and they were running Midway Tower ops out of the TRACON. I think they reviewed their procedures for O'Hare. It's my understanding they shut down the North and South Towers for a couple of weeks. I need to check and see whether those towers are back in service. So as a result of that, if the towers are closed, obviously we're not landing North and South runways in the daytime. And again, that would be somewhat visible on the web track. Sometimes when looking at web track, it's not only looking at what they are using, but what they are not using. So I'll try to get some additional information on the North and South Towers and report back to Jeanette.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. Okay, let's go on to the O'Hare construction awareness discussion. Yeah,
I'll just do a quick open and toss it to Ryan. We are proceeding with a construction project for rehabilitation of runway 4 right, 22 left. That's one of the crosswinds on the South Airfield. That pavement was, it's due for rehabilitation. And this was contemplated in our IFQ schedule. So just know that IFQ will end on Sunday morning, May 17th. We'll take a 4-month break to do this runway rehab. And as a result of that, we are going to publish a construction awareness flyer, as we have done in prior years, because if they're not using that runway to the extent, we want to make sure all of you know that. That runway will be closed for 8 weeks, 24 hours a day. And then for the middle of the summer through July, August, September, it'll be nighttime work only. And so that, I guess for flight quiet purposes, it just means it's out of service for the bulk of the 4 months. So anyway, we'll produce a flyer and present that at the next tech committee, or if Jeanette wants us to give it to the full commission at the June meeting, that's fine as well.
Okay, thanks. Evan, let's take on technical committee.
All right, I don't have too much prepared. My focus hasn't really been on ONCC technical committee, unfortunately. But as we discussed, I do want to talk about the COVID impacts. And then obviously we've committed to being somewhat of the police force for Fly Quiet. I want to start explaining what that looks like. I am reading up on Fly Quiet awards and what the different airports are doing on that.
Sounds great. Any questions for Evan?
I also had been talking with Evan on this, being his vice chair. I'm going through some of my archives for some of the stuff we've done way in the past too. So,
Right.
Great, that'll be super helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. Fly Quiet committee, Joe?
I think the main discussion that I'll just remind everybody about is that there was a vote taken on looking further into vectoring, not vectoring, I'm sorry, about RNAV, and it was approved. So in the future, we're going to be looking at certain runways using RNAV if feasible. That's basically it. Ryan did a nice job redefining our procedures and going forward, and I think that helped everybody to focus on what needs to be done in the future.
Yeah, I think that was good after you all clarified that the vote was not to say RNAV will be part of Fly Quiet, but that it will be considered
Right.
as part of Fly Quiet.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to think that RNAV is going to be used, but I think it's a little premature to say no to it altogether.
Exactly, and the committee may decide to offer it as a second phase, possibly, so that's not off the table at this point either.
Yeah.
I voted no on that, and I think if it was phrased as you just phrased it, Arlene, I would support that. I just don't. I just don't want to do it simultaneously. I do want to keep the door open, so that's why I voted no on it. But I'm not opposed to the concept.
Yeah, I think as the analysis unfolds, if it looks like it's going to be delayed beyond where we need it to be, that perhaps the committee could decide to break it up into 2 pieces later. But I think we haven't shut the door on it at this point.
Right. Right.
Okay. Ad hoc governance committee.
So we had a productive meeting last week. I think all the days are blurring together. I think we feel like we've sort of tackled the big issues that are out there. You know, we've are going to be recommending that the TRACON boundary within the state of Illinois be kind of the new O'Hare Commission area. We're finalizing the bylaws language. We're also looking to strengthen the attendance language so that there's more incentive for all of our members to actively participate. We did look at some of the attendance information. I think, you know, previously, Ray, for your information, we had some conversations about kind of where the school districts felt their participation and kind of their role in ONCC would be going forward. We had hoped to have a meeting to talk about that, but in light of everything that's going on, the group recommended that we continue to have those conversations, but maybe table it for a future bylaws or IGA update rather than trying to get it all done since our timeline has been delayed with everything that's been going on. So our goal is to meet one more time to finalize the language and then hand the list of IGA change recommendations to the City of Chicago for their attorneys to draft so that we can bring something forward to the full ONCC this summer and then finalize the IGA this fall with CDA in the City of Chicago.
Great, good, and I hope that the committee as well as the city's legal staff recognizes that the sooner we get this language to our members to consider and think about, the better, and that it probably needs to be accompanied with some sort of a memo explaining the changes, that it's not just going to be a red line that's going to go out. And I know that you guys know that, but I just wanted to make sure it was on the record. Because I think using the Tricon area is a significant change, but I think it's an important and verifiably needed one. So great, good. Okay, nominating committee. Mayor Sherwin, I believe, has decided or volunteered to
Yes.
head it up once again.
Yes.
And
So,
do we have committee members with him?
yes. Trustee Kunkel of Hanover Park, Trustee Kaminsky, Mike Hankey, and Peter Bialik of Chicago will be participating in the committee.
Okay, great. And my goal there is to make sure that we get their recommendations out to the full commission as much before our annual meeting as possible. I hate it when somebody says, and here's the slate, and let's vote on it right now. We need to give people a chance to at least review it and think about it. Okay. Any comments from anybody at this point? Okay, the annual meeting will be rescheduled to June 5th, and we will not have a May 1st meeting. There is no important business that needs to be voted on. We're deferring votes on the financials. I understand that the sound insulation program is moving along with our general concurrence, thumbs up, thumbs down consensus that we gave a couple meetings ago. So in light of everything that's going on, we will not have a May 1st meeting. And I assume the executive board is okay with that. Any questions or concerns?
The only thing is approval of payments and stuff like that. Can we make some sort of a motion or something to pay the bills and take care of housekeeping that we usually vote on?
Well, Jeanette, do we have any bills sitting that need approval?
So what I've done with Dr. Cooper is I email him a list of whatever the payments are, and with his consent, they are signed, and I carbon copy the accountants that we use as a track record.
So one thing that is often done, and we would need a vote actually of the full commission to do this, is to delegate to the executive board the ability to take these kinds of approving votes under the emergency conditions we are at. As long as Aaron and the City of Chicago don't believe we're exceeding our authority to act, that's fine. You know, we definitely need to get certain bills paid. But I think that perhaps we need to have a vote at the annual meeting, because I can imagine there's still going to be social distancing and things after June 1st. That we have something that delegates to the executive board under certain conditions the ability to approve.
Yeah, I just recently sent my invoice to the City of Chicago, and they're accepting it via online. So I scanned everything, and they have the invoices for approval. Before, I would copy everything, have Aaron look at it, and then submit it that way. But I guess since the situation with COVID-19, that's the way they're taking their invoices now.
Okay, and I know there's no reason to be suspicious that anything untoward is going on, but I think just in the interest of full transparency, we should do whatever we need to do. Dr. Cooper, you're okay with the way things are going right now?
Yeah, I'm fine. There should be some kind of motion, or at least in the minutes, that we worked out, after I review the bills, I give her, Jeanette, permission to sign the checks. We're a little short-handed. Usually we have 2 signatures on checks, but for the last number, meaning 2 different people could sign them. Right now, I'm the only one authorized, so I've given temporary authorization, and it seemed to have worked last time. So just so everyone knows that we really don't have another way of doing it with the shelter in place kind of thing going. So just so everyone knows that and understands it, and we put in all the safeguards that we think are necessary.
Okay, and we'll want to present all the financials for an official ONCC vote, everything that we have not yet voted on. And I know that the Open Meetings Act, has been modified somewhat. The Attorney General is allowing meetings like what happened here today. So I think there is a recognition that we're under unusual circumstances. But let's keep a running tally, so to speak, and bring it all up for final approval by the ONCC at the June meeting. The June meeting will be held by hook or by crook. And I've been on some very large Zoom meetings, so I know that it can easily be done by 50 people. And we will just press forward because we can't really delay anymore. So with that, our next meeting is June 5th. I'm wondering if anyone from the committee here has anything for the good of the order. Okay, then I'll go to comments from the audience. Do you have any comments from the audience?
I have one. Just
Yes,
follow up to the fly quiet and RNAV. I guess my concern hinges around the depth of analysis that'll go into RNAV. Whereas we have historical data for vector headings, we do not have that for RNAV. And if I understood CDA's response at the last fly quiet, the FAA wouldn't be contributing to the noise analysis. So we'd like to hear a little bit more about where the RNAV discussion would go as far as noise analysis.
Okay, good question. I know people were reluctant to take it off the table, but they weren't willing to keep it on the table either. So I think this will be a work in progress as we go forward and figure out when do we continue to work on it and when do we put it up in the to be determined later bucket.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Anything else from the audience?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes.
This is Frank. A question for Ryan. Ryan, on the approximately 800 daily flight cancellations, is there a breakdown of whether they're day or night operations on that?
I don't have that in front of me right now, but yeah, we can give some average percentages at the tech committee to see how that's broken out.
Okay, no, we'll talk at the tech then. And this is for Mayor, on the subject of the TRACON boundaries, is there some place where I could get a map of the boundary that the new boundary and what it would encompass? And also, is that going to mean new members of the commission, or is the member count going to stay about static?
Karen?
Frank, I can forward you the TRACON boundary map that we have.
Okay, because I'm trying to find it online and there's no geographical boundaries that I could see for whatever reason. But if the boundary is larger than it is now, does that mean that more people are going to be on the commission?
There is no current boundary in regards to who can and cannot join the ONCC. And so what we are trying to establish is a reasonable boundary to ensure that our membership is reflective of people who are experiencing O'Hare noise. Right now, if Galena wanted to join the commission, they could do so if they executed the IGA and participated in the meetings.
Okay, is the TRACON boundary going to further or extend that invitation list, if you want to call it that?
So the idea would be that the TRACON boundary would just delineate a fixed O'Hare Commission area. It extends to the west past DeKalb, so we're not impacting any of our current members. And then, you know, we're not going to be actively seeking more members, but it would allow for everyone in the TradeCon area to continue to be eligible to participate in the commission. And then we're relying on a strengthened attendance policy to ensure that those communities who are joining the commission are active participants who are engaged in contributing to the, you know, the discussion and some of our goals, so that only those communities who feel like they have something to gain by participating are actually joining.
Okay, but it's like an open-ended invitation. I think if tech or some other committee could get involved and put a noise monitor out there for a few months or longer and see if there is appreciable amounts of noise. If there isn't, what's the point of having even more people, you know, out in DeKalb and other places where Park Ridge and Chicago have way more noise and only a small voice?
So Frank, the problem is now there's an open-ended invitation for anybody in the state of Illinois to join. And this puts a boundary line around it that people can understand and that makes sense from, as you say, from potentially being impacted by noise. We've got, you know, members from St. Charles and areas that are Wayne, you know, that are fairly far out. And this at least puts boundaries on it where before there were no boundaries. And I think, again, as Karen said, the attendance requirements will make sure that if you join, you're going to, you know, bother to show up at a meeting. So
I wasn't aware that there was no boundary. Anybody in the state of Illinois can join. So thank you for letting me know that. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'll mute.
I think that concludes all of the input. So is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move, so.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Stay safe, and we'll potentially have an executive board meeting before the June 5th meeting. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Aye.